Marc Geredes back again from Sunday with this week's installment of Market Minute. So last week, we showed you the absolutely meteoric rise in consumer credit card debt, which, when combined with the lowest levels of personal savings seen in quite some time, makes the situation with consumers really kind of a ticking time bomb. And I got to tell you, that kind of bums me out, actually. So I thought this week I'd try to turn the page to a bit of a happier story. I want to take a look at the current U.S. housing inventory and try to tie together what a slowdown in consumer spending means to the economy, interest rates, and ultimately housing inventory. Let's go take a look. Hey, so I'm sure you've all heard of home selling season, and it typically begins in March of every year, peaks in June, and then heads back down to its lowest levels in January, then repeats the cycle year after year. Now, the chart in front of you that you see on your screen represents housing inventory in the United States by month. And as you can see from the chart, and what I'm really looking at are the bumps that occur, the high points in the chart every year, you're going to see that housing inventory actually closely follows the home selling season, which you might imagine would make sense, but with inventories actually peaking in August, just after the peak in June for home sales themselves. Now, just as we've done over the past few weeks, we're going to break down what's happened with housing inventory into the three distinct time periods: the pre-pandemic time period, during the pandemic, and then the post-pandemic time period. Now, first and foremost, one of the things you got to keep in mind is that a normal supply of housing is considered to be 6 months, and this is where supply and demand are actually in balance. Now, the pre-pandemic period, and this time we're covering the period from 2015 to 2019, we're looking first at June of 2015. There were roughly 2 million homes for sale, which was about 3.2 months of supply. And then by the time June of 2019 rolls around, there were really only 1.7 million homes for sale, which was about 2.7 months of supply. So that's the pre-pandemic period. Now let's talk about the pandemic period. What was happening then? Again, we're talking about now the periods or the years of 2020 and 2021. So in June of 2020, there were 1.3 million homes for sale, which was about 2.1 months of supply. And then in June of 2021, now this is really crazy, there were only 877,000 homes for sale, which was about 1.2 months of supply. I mean, there are literally no homes to buy out there. People were buying fixer-uppers at market-ready prices. Absolutely crazy. And now, if you remember what was going on about this point in time, as we were at the end of the pandemic period, going into the post-pandemic period, the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates really rapidly beginning of March of 2022, taking consumer mortgage rates from roughly 2.65% all the way up to 8%. So what happened to housing inventory then? Well, the post-pandemic period, again, covering 2022 to present, in June of 2022, there were roughly 1.1 million homes for sale, which was about 1.8 months of supply, certainly better than we saw a little bit earlier. And then what we actually saw supply peak in October of 2023, right before interest rates hit their peak of 8% in November of 2023, which was roughly 1.1 million homes for sale, representing about 2.7 months of supply, a number the market hadn't seen since June of 2019, if you look back on the graph there. Now, you might be asking yourself, how is it possible that 2.7 months of supply was 1.1 million homes in November of 2023, but it was 1.7 million homes back in June of 2019? The answer is simply this: fewer people can actually afford homes at today's higher interest rates, and they could back when interest rates were 2.65%. Let's try to wrap this up. So while we're now projecting interest rates to drop below 6% by the end of the year, and I mentioned that a few weeks ago, consumers are in such a tough spot. We actually don't think that lower interest rates are going to generate the demand that it normally does. And as a result, we actually expect inventories, housing inventories, to gradually increase throughout the year. Well, what does that mean for home prices in 2024? Well, we believe it will still be a great time to be a seller because of low inventories, and also a great time to be a buyer because of lower interest rates and less competition, because people just can't afford it. So as a result, we think housing prices will actually remain firm in 2024. Well, that's all I have for this week, folks. Next week, we'll take a look at real wage growth, comparing wages versus inflation, which is actually helping consumers a little bit with their debt burden. So a little good news here. Until then, have a great week, everybody. Take care.